Hey everyone. In my last video, we had an introduction to prompt-driven development, and then we created a web version of an app for studying, particularly a flashcard app. So in this video right here, we're going to continue and now use prompt-driven development best practices to convert that into a mobile app. So let's see how that turns out. And by the way, we're going to be focusing, just to keep things simple, an iOS mobile app. So before I start my video where we're actually converting the app to an iOS, I wanted to just clean up a couple of things here. I realized we really don't need the categories section here, so I'm gonna remove that. And the other thing I'm gonna remove is the feature where we have like the rating system for the answers. I don't feel like that's too important right now. And what I'm talking about is when we're doing a study session after we reveal an answer where we choose the level of which how well we know the answer. This could be something that could be reconsidered maybe later on. Right now, I just want to focus on the core features. So let's ask Copilot to get rid of those features. Can you go ahead and remove the category feature? We really don't need that. And also remove the rating system of 1 to 5. And hopefully it could do it all in one shot. Maybe we could see it live as it's making its updates. Look at that. How cool is that? It did it live. It's still working right now. It removed the categories. And actually, maybe I could just come here and start a study session, reveal. That's still there. And let's leave it up on the screen and see what happens. Look at that. Pretty cool. So it looks like it's just finishing things up. It's asking me if I want to save it to GitHub, but let's go ahead and reveal. Next. What does JavaScript stand for? And yeah, there's the answer. Perfect. So I think we're good to go right now. We can still like make the UI look a little bit better, but I think we're good to go to have the core functionality that we want to focus on and move on to creating a mobile version of this app. And we could just save this for now. The first thing that I'm going to want to do here is, since I've made a couple of small changes to the app, I want to make sure that I get some prompts from Copilot that I could use when asking it to create a mobile version of this that's based on how everything is set up here. And I'd like it to be similar to this format here. Remember how I had it create these prompts in the last video? So let's enable Copilot, and we're going to go to plan mode. And I'm going to ask it to do exactly that. I'd like to go ahead and create a mobile version of this app. So can you create prompts for me step by step, just like in this flashcards markdown file, so that I can reuse that in a new session to create a mobile version of this app and look at the overall architecture and come up with a nice UI for this mobile version. Do you think I said mobile version enough? So that's interesting, but I'm looking at some of the steps that I wrote. It's saying set up mobile project, and it says to set up folder structure, source screens. Okay, that looks fine so far. I actually thought it was saying to look at the current project directory, but that's not what it's doing. All right, well, that's cool. I'm going to go ahead and now just copy this, and we're actually going to try to use these prompts that it gave us. We're going to save this in a text file. All right, so I'll put this to the side, and we're going to close this out now. Let's go ahead and open up a new folder, and we will call this simple flashcard mobile. But as long as we're here, why don't we go ahead and rename this old project, just for peace of mind, simple flashcard, and that was the web version. But let's hop into our mobile, and I'm going to copy this prompt, and we are in agent mode. The model that we're using is GPT-4.1. Do I want to keep it there? Let's try GPT-5. And one thing that I want to mention, this is going to be for an iOS mobile app. Let's go. All right, we are continuing, and the project files have begun being generated. Now, the last time I created a mobile app, and it was a first time I was actually creating a mobile app on my laptop, I had to install some dependencies and to set up the environment. So I'm probably going to need to do that for this computer too, since it is a different computer. Okay, it's saying that it wants to install some project dependencies, and we're going to be using Expo. I recently learned what Expo was, and in case you want to find out like more about it, instead of interrupting this, sometimes what I like to do, I'll just create another session of VS Code using insiders, and then I can ask some questions. So let's open up a new temporary folder under dev. Let's just call this Blackboard, and we'll open it. And then here we could ask it, when creating an iOS app, what is Expo? There you go, popular platform and set of tools for building React Native applications, particularly useful for iOS. So I could go ahead and do other things that I need done without interrupting my environment. But I just want to show you that real quick. So for now, let's continue with the installations of the dependencies. Let's keep this code. Doesn't look like it did anything incorrect. So if you just notice to the left, when I was clicking keep, it was keeping the files one at a time, accepting the settings. But on the right-hand side, when I did it, it just kept all the different changes that it made. What's been done so far, and am I ready to try to execute this project, or do I need to do something else? So I asked it what's been done so far, but it just told me right now that it's going to try to run a TypeScript type check. So we are in agent mode. It's not the ideal scenario to ask a question. We actually have an option for literally asking questions. So I'm going to ask the same question again now, and let's see how it responds. Again, this is ask mode. Okay, this is a little bit better. Now it says that it was going to gather some information so that it could report what's implemented and whether the project is runnable. So it's doing some work, and now it says I'll summarize what's implemented. Okay. All right, it's really detailed with what it's telling me. So this is actually pretty cool. It's mapping it to like the different steps that I gave it in the prompts. So like the first step is partially done, the second step is done, etc. All right. So that's good enough for me. I'm going to go ahead, switch it back to agent mode and say continue with process. All right, let's install the Expo dependencies. Okay, it's going to do something with TypeScript again here. All right, at this point it says we are ready to run, but it did give me these commands to try out. So let's continue to take the next steps before executing the project. Okay, so we're ready to run the project, and looking over the last few steps it says to do beforehand. And for number one over here, it says to install node packages, but it looks like we've already done that. And for number two, to ensure Expo native packages are installed, and it says already done in this session. And then there's these last two steps. So I'm going to actually run these last two steps because it seems as if we already did 1 and 2. And in fact, actually, you know what? 3 looks ready to be done right here. So I'm not even going to run that. So let's attempt to start Expo. See what happens. All right, so this is where we get to choose the emulator that we want. And I'm going to go ahead and choose the iOS emulator. So I'll click I. It's telling me that this is outdated for the iPhone 16 Pro. Is it important to really upgrade it for this test? Sure, why not? Let's just say yes, be on the safe side. And with the magic of editing, we'll just speed through. Let's get permission here. Oh, look at that. Looking promising. Fingers crossed. Let's get permission. Constant platform iOS model has been, can't really tell what that is there. All right, well, that was looking promising, and now we've crashed. But let's take a look closely to what's going on here. Constant's platform iOS model has been deprecated in favor of Expo device model name property. This API will be removed. Well, I'm not really sure what that means, but I do know I have the power of using Copilot Vision, And I'm going to take a screenshot of this and drop this into our chat and ask it, can you tell me what this error is about and what to do to fix it? You know what? I clicked dismiss at the bottom. I'm not really sure if that was this a temporary error, but I want to see what response I get here from Copilot before I try to actually use this. I'll explain the warning, why it appears, and the exact quick fixes. It's only a deprecation warning, not a crash. Okay. But the ABI may be removed in newer SDKs. And then there's a recommended fix for that. All right, that's cool. But I'm going to save this because we did a lot to get this up and running. But before I could even start messing with this, I want to go ahead and save this to GitHub. Simple flashcard mobile. All right, so I went ahead and created this repository, and let me just give a general URL for it. Let's go ahead and click on source control here so we can see the status. All right, that looks good. So let's go ahead and insert these commands to the terminal. Okay, and let me press publish to branch here. All right, so now I'm going to save this to GitHub. To see how I set things up to save to GitHub through Copilot, check out my episode 1 video. Okay, so now that we've saved this to GitHub, let's start the app. I'll hit I for iOS emulator. Looks like it's starting up. Okay, so now let's see if this actually works here. So the UI looks pretty vanilla, but there is a plus sign here, which I assume could be to add. And look at that, for a new deck, pretty good. But let's see if it actually works here. So for the front and the back, we'll give it that a simple question. What does JS stand for? Give it the answer. Looks good so far. Let's go do a more challenging one. In programming, what is the S in solid? Do you guys know what that is? If you watched my earlier Copilot videos, you know that's the single responsibility principle. Let's go ahead and save that. And in fact, let's do one more for the letter O, and that is for the open close principle. All right, looking good so far. Why don't we go ahead and hit study and see how that works? Look at that. What does JS stand for? I click here, JavaScript. Nice. I'll click good, and it moves on to the next one. In programming, what does S stand for? So that's where I guess I'd say it out loud, and then I click again and get the answer. Beautiful. If I do again, I can get prompted the question again. Nice, okay. Open close principle. All right, pretty cool. Now this could be improved, so let's work on that. One thing I see is that when we're done, it should be smart enough to know that it's finished with the deck. So I'll make a note of that. Another thing that I noticed is that at the Home tab, we should have something individual here. This is insane that there's nothing here like this. Add content to home screen, maybe like the existing decks that we have. And I don't see an area to change the name of the deck. The decks must be editable. So that's cool so far. We'll come back and add these features next. All right, so we are back and we're ready to add some features. Now, I want to mention there's a couple of things that I noticed. On the left-hand side, by the way, I played around with it a little while I was off camera, and I just noticed that there's a feature to just refresh the page. So by doing that, it was able to show me other decks that I set up. At first, I was thinking that it was just like not displaying the decks in the home page. So for this feature right here, we could remove that because that's already there. However, I did add a couple more features in addition to what we already mentioned up above. One, I wanted to add just some modern colors to it. Tell it to just add modern theme to home screen, okay? And then the last thing that I added here was to change this home label here. We'll change it to the name of the app, which is Simple Flashcard Mobile. So let's request these features. Now, because these features are not huge changes, I feel comfortable asking for all of them. But for best practice, you generally want to request it one at a time. And since they're kind of small, I'm okay with asking for all. And honestly, I just want to test the durability. Please add the following features. App must know when to end a study session. I could be more specific and say give the user option to start new study session or return home. Let's say button option. Right now, I can't edit name. The more specific you are, the better the response, especially if you're going to give it like 4 different things to change. Add modern theme to home screen looks a bit too vanilla. And over here, I'll just say change app name on home screen to simple flashcard mobile. All right, so let me cut this because apparently this is like still running right now since the app's running. So I'll stop this and then paste our requests. And I'll close this session for now. It's telling us right up here, it's going to update the storage, deck screen, study screen, home screen, and app to implement the requested features. And there's session UI, editable deck name, modernized home theme, and updated home title. Okay. Right now it's modernizing. It just finished modernizing the home screen. All right, it's asking us to run a TypeScript type check to catch any typing issues. Okay, now a grep to ensure no remaining references to Constant's platform. All right, apparently the patches are applied. And let's go ahead and start. So again, these are the changes that we were expecting. I'm excited to see what the home screen is going to look like. Ooh, that looks a little bit nicer. So the home screen looks a little bit nicer. The deck names now could be edited. Look at that. New deck. Test deck. Back. Let's refresh this. Now it says test deck. Actually, I would have liked it to refresh automatically. Let's change this to coding questions. All right. And this right here, I could delete, but I'm going to change this just to see if it actually is waiting for me to refresh. I'm not refreshing right now. I'm just giving it a few seconds to see if it was going to change on its own. And it's not. I want this to update name changes automatically. Let's move these down. Deck name is editable now. That's good. We do have duplicates here. I don't want to see that. That's kind of ridiculous. So we're going to ask it to remove duplicate titles. But the last thing we want to test is to see if it knows when a session has ended. So let's run a study session here. What does JS stand for? JavaScript. Good. All right. Okay. When it got to the third one, I actually skipped to it. But when it got to the third one, now it gives us the option to return home or start a new session. So I could click return home and boom. Okay, that's pretty good. Study, go to 2, we're at 3. If I do a new session, it starts another, it repeats the session. Okay, that makes sense. All right, pretty good. So I'm going to save this to our repo and then we're going to come back and add these last few updates. Alrighty, so let's add the remaining features that we want here, which is to remove these duplicate titles and to make sure that our new names of decks are automatically updated. Please add these changes. We'll make the changes and I want to include a screenshot of the duplicate title and let's see how that goes. I'll go ahead and close this session here and let's start the app. I for iOS. And we're hoping to have those duplicate titles removed and that our name changes for the decks are done automatically without us having to refresh it. Great, no more duplications there. And let me come over here, rename this new deck. Let's change it to temporary questions. Look at that, nice. That does it for these 2 changes. What we're looking at right now is our original web version of the simple flashcard app. And the reason why we're here is because there's a new feature that I want to add, which is kind of a big deal. So what I like to do is if I have 2 versions of the app, I like to test it on another version first. So for example, I want to add a feature for when I reveal the answers that there's a button that says get more. And when the button is clicked, it uses my open router key to get additional information from the answer. So I wanted to see how it works here, get a feel for it, work out the kinks, and then go back to my mobile app and try to apply it there when I have everything straight. So I'm going to run this and see how it implemented this feature to see if it got the essence of what I wanted. Okay, let me run this session here. Boom. Get more. Open router key not found. Please add the open router key to your environment variables. And that makes sense. But now I'm just going to ask it where to add my API key. Where do I add the API key for this image? All right, let's look at the root of our project. And there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and hide this so you can't see my key. You don't normally want to have your keys hard-coded here. So I'm going to paste it in, but then I'm going to ask Copilot to follow best practices to secure my keys so it's not hard-coded. All right, so now let's do this study session again. Reveal. The answer is JavaScript. And now I'm going to click Get More. And look at that. It's got the loading sign. It gives me more information on my question. JS stands for JavaScript, which is a powerful and versatile programming language. Boom. And now we have this AI powered. Now I'm going to go ahead and add this to my mobile version. But why don't I hop over to ask mode and then tell it to create a prompt for me based on a feature that I just created. Can you give me the prompt so that I can apply this new get more feature to my mobile version of this app? And there we go. I need a feature that allows the user to get additional AI information about the flashcard answer. All right, it gave me additional information, but I don't think I need all that. Boom. That'll be my prompt. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. So I'm going to copy this. And I did notice that in the other section, it was using Claude 3, and that was fine. So I'm going to leave that as is. So in the spirit of that, why don't we go ahead and change this to one of the Claude sonnets, Claude 4. Now I do want to explain that what I'm about to do is use a feature called Bring Your Own Key, which is like our ability to use a third party that provides us an API key to use. And I'm going to be using a key that I generated from openrouter.ai. After you've created an account, if you go over here and go to keys, and don't think you could see my keys right here. These are just part of it, but you can generate your own key. And it's as simple as setting up your payment terms and then just giving your key a name, and then it'll give you the key that you need to copy. It only shows you the key once, but that's all you need as long as you save it somewhere else. So let's get out of here and let me save to GitHub. All right, so let's go ahead and add my prompt and let's see it work its magic. All right, looks like it's going to update the study screen with the button and the loading states. It looks like something got mangled here, but it said it was going to try to fix it. Let me delete and recreate the file. Okay. This has happened before for other projects that I created where something went wrong, but it was able to see, Copilot was able to figure out that something went wrong and then fix it. And through an iterative process, it eventually took care of it, which is amazing. But this is another reason why it's important to be able to save everything to GitHub in case something goes corrupt and it's not able to fix it. Now I need a way to add navigation to settings from the home screen. Okay. All right, there seems to be an issue with the study screen module export. So it's troubleshooting that. I probably could have left this as GPT-5, but I switched it to Claude Sonnet 4. The reason why is because when I tested it in the web version, that's the model that I was using. So for consistency's sake, I was like, well, let me go ahead and change it to this also, especially since it referenced it in the prompt that it generated. It referenced Claude. Okay, let's see what happened here. Perfect. I've recreated the study screen file with the complete AI integration. Let's go ahead and run that. TypeScript compilation ran without errors. That's good. But now I need to specify my API key. So I need to know where to put that. Where shall I put my API key? This is where I'll put it. But there should be a way to set it up so that it could be more secure, because you really shouldn't be hard coding keys into your code. So I'm going to go ahead to get things working to paste it here, but I could always ask it to secure it so that it hides it in a secret file or something to that effect in terms of best practices for this particular project. So for now, you won't see me paste it in, but trust me, I will, and we'll continue. I entered the key in the settings screen. Does that look correct to you? All right, so now I'm just validating that I put it in the proper place. All right, looks good. Now let's go ahead and run the app. See how it performs. I for iOS. All right, let's go to a test deck here and run a study session. What is JS? And here's your answer. And here I could click Get More. Open API key is required. Add it in settings. Well, it looks like it was imperfect the first time, but we're close. I'm going to show this screenshot. Take a look at this screenshot. Where in settings must I be adding my API key? Look for settings in blue on the upper right-hand corner. It seems like it's talking about the app here. I see. Settings. Wow. Okay. It wants my API key to be entered here. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, I've saved it. And now let's go back and try again. I'm not even going to click Get More here. Let's just say good. I'm programming what is the S. It's a typo here. What is the S? In solid single responsibility principle. Now let's say I'm not too sure about what that means. Click Get More. And look at that. Now we have a lot more information about our answer. Beautiful. Now we have an AI-based flashcard app. How amazing is that? And we're able to do that by using Copilot in conjunction with the ability to use Open Router. And I think I'm going to change this name here to simpleflash.ai. Go to Find in Files, and let's look for the word mobile. There's a title right there. And this one will do our change old school. Beautiful. We'll delete this deck. And there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed that. From my personal experience, whenever I want to create like a mobile app, it's always easier from my perspective to do a rough cut on a web version first to get some functionality kinks out of the way. But I hope you enjoy this as a journey for learning best practices with prompt-driven development, particularly for this type of app that we later converted into a mobile app. Let me know if you've created a mobile app before in the comments. What were some highlights? And definitely check out some of the other videos in this series. That's it for now, and I'll see you in the next one.